So here's Eleanor and Vera. So Eleanor has acquired this new truck. It's part of her tomato business, and we're slowly starting to work and getting it going. It's a 1927 Model T. And first time I've ever really worked on a Model T, and they're wonderfully simple. Just have to kind of pay attention to what you're doing here. Of course, standard inline 4 old style spark plugs. There's your firewall, and here's all your connectors. And so you've got position sensor on the front across the cam. Those wires connect up here and come down, and that's what'll signal the spark plug to fire when the cam's properly adjusted. One of the things that Henry Ford did to prevent kickbacks is this lever right here. As I move it up and down, that's a spark advance, and it changes the position of the sensor on the front of the shaft there, so it'll tilt it back and forth, and that keeps it from it advances the spark so that you don't have as many kick fires if you're having to use, or backfires if you're having to use the hand starter. And of course, you got what is essentially we'd call an alternator generator type thing, but this is what would recharge our battery. It's a very simple carburetor. You can actually adjust the needle from the inside, but you've got your throttle. This goes all the way over here to this throttle, so as I move the throttle on the steering column, moves the throttle on the carb. Here's our choke. These originally had a spring on them. I've just got a bungee cord on it for the time being. I was just making sure it would run. Fuel shut off on it. What's interesting is there's no fuel pump, so the Model Ts are gravity fed. So that fuel line just goes to a tank. On this one, it's right under the seat. So it comes right down and drops in. And so if you had low gas, apparently back in the day, they would go in reverse back up the hill, because the elevation, if the truck was going uphill, a lot of times it would drain fuel back out of the line. So they would back up a hill to keep fuel pressure coming up to the carb. And of course, you can see basically draws up right into the front there to fire off. Just an oil bath in the bottom, takes about a gallon of 5W20. There's your radiator, a non-pressurized system. This is a 1927 model. So it was actually clipped with a starter, but it's missing the Bendix gear, which is inside here to actually start the engine. So I've got that, unfortunately it's on back order. Those are kind of your three main driving pedals. The far pedal all the way down is low gear, all the way up is high gear. And where it's at right now, you can see there's a little retaining lever right there that all that's connect to. Holds right there. You can put that handbrake on right there, and it doesn't quite engage the handbrake, but it will hold it in neutral for you. While it's in neutral, if you were to press this pedal, that would engage reverse, and this is your brake right here. Some of the models came with a little sensor, or aftermarket, you can get a sensor to put on here that would put a brake light on for you. And then of course there's the drivetrain right to the back. Originally, the ignition system was a series of 4 coils, and there was a magneto, so there's a big magneto spinner in there, and you could switch from battery to magneto power once the car got going. But essentially you had magneto points coils, and that would energize and run up your voltage to fire off your spark plugs. This particular thing, if you'll notice, it's a true firebox, and I've kind of got it wedged in there. I was just trying to make sure I get it running before we started taking the wood off. But this has actually got a condenser inside of it. It's got a little speaker to sound like coils, and it's got a circuit board with all kinds of electronic circuitry to mimic what a coil would do, but give you much greater reliability, so you don't have to worry about the coils coming loose. And there's literally just contacts on spring-loaded copper back there, and that's what connects through these ceramic connectors out to our wires to go out on our engine. Let's take a quick glance on the other side as we come around. You like your truck, Bird? So on this side, the way you date these is right above this fuel pump. Or, I'm sorry, not fuel pump. Right here above the water inlet on the water pump is a serial number, and that'll tell you the age of the engine block. And you can trace down if it came from the River Rouge plant or wherever. This one's in April of 1927. The only big issue we found so far after we got it running is right here, the shaft coming out of the water pump up to the pulley. You can see all the signs where it's been leaking for a while. When I got it running, I just put some water in the radiator real quick just to keep it cool, and notice that right in here it's leaking pretty bad, and so we'll have to replace that. I don't know if I can repack it or if I'll just have to get a whole new setup there. Here's the back side of the actual starter. We saw the Bendix screw on the other side. And there's where the cold water gets pulled out up through the pump, into the engine, and then back up and returns to the radiator. Again, a non-sealed system. Look over the top, there's your overflow that would come and run right down through here. This, of course, is set up to be a truck, so you've got the truck bed on it. Very minimal metal as far as the frame and the bracing, and most of the stuff in this appears to be true 2x4, hopefully hardwood. This is the only rot I found on the frame, is right here. Fortunately, there's another member behind it, so I'll get that all patched up. Originally, they were a 6-volt system. This one moved to a 12-volt system. Here's our parking brake, our handbrake. Again, when this is up right here, it matches and it pulls this sort of cam up, and you can press this pedal. You can see right there how that pin is going up and down. That holds it in neutral right there. So apparently Model Ts are notorious for leaking oil, and the tolerances are really, really big on these. Ford, apparently Henry Ford wanted everybody to be able to use them a little bit more appropriately and be able to work on them. Just kind of going around. There's the rest of the truck from the back. Just started taking the tailgate and the side off, try to get all that off and replace a lot of this rotten wood. And then, you know, there's the rear end, the springs. Very simple, but functional system. There's our drums and everything on the outside. You can see the axle caps right here for putting grease into our axles. So instead of having actual grease fitting, you pack that with grease and then screw it on tight, and it'll force the grease down in there. But you can see as far as the actual structural members holding the bed, they actually look pretty good all the way across. We're definitely going to replace the bottom side of these bed floorboards and everything. So that is our 1927, or Eleanor's 1927 Model T Ford truck, and watch for updates later.